Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I'm Tina Gadini.
Hey. I'm
Say your name.
Ashton.
I'm Riley Gadini.
And we want to welcome you to Fellowship of Faith. This morning, at the last minute, we decided to invite Ashton to join us. We're very excited about this. Anyways, 3 today. This is exciting. Ashton says, it's kind of crowded up here. I'm like, oh yeah.
It's always crowded.
It's always crowded
Yeah.
up here. So this morning at church, we got a good service.
Yes.
We've got communion going on, so make sure you guys have all of your
Crackers and wine and whatnot.
ready to commune with us. Don't want you guys watching us. Want you communing with us.
Yes.
Right. How's your
Yeah.
guys' week?
Good. I got grand champion last night at my marching band tournament.
You're
yeah.
percussion, right?
Yeah.
Yes. What do you play?
Marimba, so it's like a big piano.
Ooh, like no, like ding 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 dings.
Yeah.
Not the, what's the 4? What's the 4 drums? That's
Not the timpanis.
Drums.
no quads. I guess it's called the quads, which
Yeah.
would make sense because it's 4. So marimba.
Yeah.
What songs do you play?
Well, it was our show's titled Vagabond, so it's a lone wolf. So it's like it's all original music that we wrote.
Seriously,
Yeah.
you
Wow.
like the students wrote it?
We helped.
Wow. What school?
Huntley High School.
Great job.
Thoroughly impressed.
Great job.
Yeah.
Riley's marching band has
6 people.
6 people.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a really good word. All right, so guess what I got called this morning? I
I'm
didn't
not
get
gonna
called.
answer that.
I didn't
what
get
did
called.
you get called?
So apparently Gwen came up here in like the middle of the week looking for something, and she's like, "Oh, who's all this stuff?" And Andrew's like, "Oh, it's Tina's," and she's like, "Oh, she kind of looks like a serial killer." Oh, because in my little
I mean, kind of.
in
yeah.
my little area over here, I've got like dates on the wall. I've got Bible verses on the wall. I've got people's names on the walls. Your guys' names, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be like just talking into the void. I actually think about you guys as we're talking. So, Kathy and April and Michelle and Jean and all these names on the wall. So yeah, she thinks I might be a serial killer.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
What else we got going on today? Ooh, who's in the house today?
Jason?
Jason's in the house! Woo. So Jason Weber is our student ministry director before Gwen.
From like 2-3 years ago.
So in 2020, he actually had the opportunity to move to Hong Kong International School, and he's a teacher, pastor, ministry head, and like I think he's like developing the whole like religious
Wow.
curriculum at the Hong Kong International School. So he's in town. Super excited for that.
Yes.
Did you get to meet? Did you get to know Jason?
Nope.
No,
I-
Ashton doesn't know Jason.
I joined the church in January, Boulder in August of last year.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because it was
Yeah.
2000 when Jason moved.
Oh.
So I mean, Jason's been a part of FOF longer than we have.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in 2020 was when COVID was shutting everything down, right? And in June, Jason was moving. So June may have been earlier than June.
May have been
That's
July. I
crazy
think
they
it was
let him
July.
It was July.
It was July.
And so, the church was not meeting live. It was all live stream. And he was like, okay, I'm just going to like slip away. And we're like, oh, no, you can't just slip away.
Yeah.
So that was the catalyst to get FOF to open back into live stream or live in person. And we were one of the first churches to open up in person because we had to send Jason off. And so he's back in town and we're super excited to see him.
I actually see him right now. He's talking to Hunter Thompson.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not even going to make it into service because so
No,
many
I
people
see
are
it.
wanting to talk to him. All right, if you guys are with us, type down in the comments that you're here, and
Or also text 855-465-2720. Type here, just like show your attendance. Or you can also type prayer to that number.
but I don't
And then-
get the here if you text. So if in the comments below, let us know that you're here. I would appreciate that. Also, like and share.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
I got one last thing.
Share with all your friends.
Share with all your friends.
Yes.
Good words.
Church
good
Ben
words.
party.
is also here.
Oh, Ben
this
came in
weekend.
town. Ben came in town. I'm
What
like,
about
oh,
Carly?
you're here to see me and Dad? He's like, no, Jason. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Anyways, you guys, glad to worship with you. We'll see you at the end.
Welcome to worship.
Bye.
FOF. Good morning. Thank you, there we go. Hey, let's stand up, greet one another, and then we'll get going.
That was great. Good morning, guys. So good to see you today. Go ahead, grab a seat, all right? Those of you who don't know me, my name's Dave Gadini, pastor here on staff at Fellowship of Faith. Thank you so much for coming. We have got a dense service in front of us. We are jumping into John chapter 2 and going deep into the woods, into the story that John wants to tell us. We are communing today. At the end, Jesus, man, that was wow. At the end, Steve's got some like hippie song about love children or something like that we're going to sing, so that's good too. And we've got someone special in the house with us today. Jason Weber, our former pastor here at Fellowship of Faith. Wave it out, Jason. This brother grew up here at Fellowship of Faith since it began in 1999. And in 2020, in the height of a pandemic, and in the height of all the political unrest going on in Hong Kong, Jason hears the call of God and goes, I need to go to Hong Kong. And for the last 2 years, he's been serving at the Hong Kong International School, bringing the gospel to expats and locals alike. He is his first time back here at Fellowship of Faith since June of 2020. Brother, it is so good to have you here. God bless you in your ministry. And he's going to be here with us, I think, for 2 weeks, next Sunday as well. Am I correct? No, this Sunday only. It is a one-shot engagement with Jason, so make sure to get this brother cornered today and say hello and tie him down, all right? So good having you here. We missed you. We missed you deep. Hey, do us a favor here today. We're going to put a number on the screen, and if you would just text that you're here and make a little base touch with us. We love to go beyond just being an anonymous crowd that gathers on Sunday morning, or even more, an anonymous crowd that's gathering online and live stream and things like that. Text the word here to 855-465-2720. Again, that's 855-465-2720 if we can be praying for you this week. Same drill, but text the word prayer to the exact same number. We'd love to come alongside you this week, pray in whatever way we can. Here at FOF, we got a number of ways you can give if you want to give an offering today. We'll put that on the screen. Those of you in person, if you're old school, there's buckets in the back by the door. If you like to give online, go to fellowshipoffaith.org, go to the giving webpage, click the button. You can text 815-201-1499, and other information is on that giving page as well. With the beginning of October today, we go into a new round of faith training. Faith training is a series of spiritual exercises that we encourage you to do throughout the week that code and tailor in to what we talk about on Sunday. And we have been using YouVersion plans these past couple of months. What I'd like you to do is, if you haven't set up YouVersion already, go ahead and scan the QR code or hop on our faith training page and do it more manually from there. But go ahead and set Fellowship of Faith as, quote, my church. When you do that, what it will do is it will steer you right to the plans that we're doing. We have got 4 Bible reading plans, each about 6 to 7 days long, that are going to take us in sequence starting every Sunday in October. So if you'd like to read along, if you'd like to do the daily plan, it's a fantastic way to kind of get the Gospel of John, I think, more deep in your soul and meet Jesus a little bit more closely in the Monday to Friday. You can do that, and if you're having trouble, come talk to us, or honestly, go to the website. Pretty intuitive, step-by-step instructions are laid out there. Couple of things that are coming up on our horizon here in the next couple of weeks that I want to share with you today, and I'm going to look at my notes because, I want to make sure I'm getting it all. Yes, so we've got a seminar coming up. Seminar led by Dr. Andrew Das. Some of you were here about 2 or 3 months ago when Dr. Das came here to Fellowship of Faith to talk about Bible translations. Dr. Das is one of the lead translators or lead editors of the New Testament of the CSB, or Christian Standard Bible. Dr. Das is offering an online webinar on the book of Colossians, which, by the way, is arguably my favorite or second favorite New Testament book. And this brother is just a wealth of information and insight. And if you'd like to learn more on that, hop on our website, fellowshipoffaith.org, go to the coming events page, just link on it. It'll give you the links and everything else you need. Second, this coming Thursday, we have got a Wills 101 seminar happening. If you do not have a will, if you do not know where to start with a will, if you are afraid of the will, if you don't know how to pronounce the word will, this seminar is for you. It's helping you get the basics and think through the basics of protecting your family and providing for the people and ministries you love when that day comes when the Lord calls us home. We do need registration. It's this Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Yeah, we know that's daytime. Talk to us if you want a special Saturday offering. But it's this Thursday, 11:30. It's free. What you talk about there is confidential. Lunch is provided, and you can find the registration on our homepage. Finally, you may have seen this walking in the door. Our Lost and Found is overflowing, like to the seams. And so you've got 2 Sundays, this Sunday and next Sunday, to claim what is yours, or quite honestly, whatever you want. There is literally a wallet up there with cash in it and no ID, all right? Hey, you wrestle through your own scruples on that, okay? Please take the junk, all right? And whatever's left here after next Sunday is getting gifted, shall we say, to the Salvation Army, or maybe we're just chucking it from the stage to unwitting people. And by the way, just another plug for the Will 101 seminar. Do you know what will happen to all the things that you have acquired in your life if you don't have a will? Exactly what we're doing at the Lost and Found right now. So get on it, all right? And with that, let's jump into John.
So you got to remember, this is back before we knew what was going on, really. So I got to set the scene for you, set the stage. My cousin Steve's getting married, and I mean, you should have seen this girl. She was gorgeous. Way out of his league, total upgrade for him. But we were happy for Steve because he found a girl of his dreams, and it was great. The DJ is playing this like European house music. You know the stuff. It's like But I mean, that wasn't really our scene. We weren't really into the dancing. So we're sitting at the bar drinking. All the girls are coming up to us, trying to drag us out on the dance floor. They're pulling our arms. But we're, no, we just want to drink. Unfortunately, Steve was kind of cheap, and so he told the bartender no top shelf stuff. So, we're drinking Colt 45s and Winking Owl and Pabst and things like that. Kind of a disappointment, but, it was fine. It did the trick. So Jesus comes in and walks up to the bar, and I thought, this must be some kind of joke. It's a Jewish wedding. There's already a rabbi here. So I'm like, where's the priest and the minister? So he hears the music. He sees no one's dancing, and he can tell all the girls want to get out there. And so he comes up to us and is like, this bores me. I'm going dancing. Now, this guy's wearing long robes down to his ankles. He's got nothing but sandals on. And so I look at him and I yell, Jesus, how are you going to be dancing in the robe and your sandals? And this gets a great laugh out of my buddies. I was feeling pretty good about myself at that point. But then Jesus looks me deadpan in the face and says, dance battle, your crew versus me and John the Baptist. And I was like, this guy must be joking. And so I grabbed my crew, we got on the dance floor, and say what you want about Jesus, but that guy can dance.
अरे धूम धूम थिरके जा पाओ में जान जगह धुमक धुमक नाचे जा दुनिया हिला दे सारी नाचो नाचो नाचो
I guess at some point, John the Baptist realized Jesus needed to become greater and he needed to become less that day. Dance battle against Jesus. I was there. This happened. You think I'm making this up? You think I'm trying to enhance the story because I'm involved? You know what? Next time that you see Jesus, challenge him to a dance battle. I dare you. Challenge him. It was crazy stuff. We did not think that Jesus could dance like that. All I can say is it's a good thing that Jesus heals cripples because there was some next level joint dislocation going on. So I go back to the bar. I pick up my Colt 45. I'm expecting it to be warm and flat. And that's when I realize that Jesus has turned it into great wine. And not just my Colt 45. Every single drink, even the soda water, had been turned into wine. And I knew right there, it had to be a sign. That was a guy worth following.
Watching your expressions, watch that, was a priceless moment that I will not soon forget. And maybe it didn't actually go down quite like that. But today is October 2, and we are going into John chapter 2. And in honor of the number 2, we are going to tell 2 stories in John chapter 2. A story about a wedding and a story about a temple. Now, to get this going, what I want to encourage you to do is open up your own Bible, whether electronically or paper copy. If you're here in person, they're under chairs, and follow along at John chapter 2. Because what I'd like you to do is see the story for yourself and watch some of the nuances come off of what is going on, particularly when you read between the lines. Now, we're going to Tarantino this morning. And so what we're going to do is start at the end and circle the storyline through. And what I want to do is ask you guys a couple of questions here today that I want you to keep before your mind. Let's see if I can get that to work. There we go. No, there we don't. All right, maybe if I turned it on, we will be in luck. There we go. Here's the questions. Let's start at the end. Here's the questions. Ask yourself, what old ways are you clinging to? Ask yourself, where are you stubbornly refusing to let go in light of Jesus? Ask yourself, how are you trading his living presence for copies, shadows, and forms? I want you to ask yourself these questions, and I want you to keep these questions alive in your mind as we go through John chapter 2. Now, pick up the storyline with me. Here's where we start. On the 3rd day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. And Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They've got no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now nearby stood 6 stone jars, the kind used by Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And so they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." And they did so. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. And he called the bridegroom aside, and he said to him, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you've saved the best till now." And John says this was the first of his miraculous signs that Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. Thus, he revealed his glory, and his disciples put their hope in him. They put their faith in him. I want to talk about this story. I want to talk about wine. I want to talk about weddings. John says this is the first sign that Jesus performs. It is the first sign of 7 signs that we will see Jesus perform throughout the Gospel of John. And any of you guys who have your feet planted in the Bible, you know that 7 is a significant number. There's a symbolic value in punch to the number. It finds its roots back all the way in Genesis with the 7 days of creation, where God created the world in 7 days, right, as we know it, and we continue to practice a 7-day week even to this day based on God's creative pattern. Now what we see Jesus doing is coming in. Who we've already seen is the creator from John chapter 1, starting creation all over again. We see him doing 7 things, 7 signs, 7 creative acts, if you will, just as God had once done 7 creative acts in ages past. But now Jesus is doing something new. He is bringing a certain level of recreation, if you will, John wants us to know. And this first one centers on wine. Now, you got the story. There's a wedding going on, and the wine runs out. So Mary, seeing the issue there, does whatever a mom does, and she tries to get her kids involved, right? And she goes, Jesus, there's no more wine. And I love Jesus' response. Didn't this just totally geek you out? For those of you here who are husbands, who are sons, or who are men under female authority, woman, why do you involve me? Woman, if you ever find yourself in those positions under female authority, I suggest maybe using this phrase of Jesus. Woman, why do you involve me? If it works for Jesus, it works for me. All right? But Mary tells the servants to do whatever Jesus tells them to do. And he turns water into wine. He reveals his glory, John will say. How? By turning water into wine. Good wine. So good it was unlike anything that had ever been tasted. Spurgeon, Charles Spurgeon, that great revivalist theologian of the past, has this amazing line that I want to share with you, commenting on John chapter 2. Here's what he says, and I want to actually read this to you. Here's what he says. He says, when you are told to believe in him up to the brim. When you are told to love him up to the brim. When you are commanded to serve him up to the brim. Jesus filled these stone vessels overflowing to the brim. I love that, don't you? And he chooses to reveal his glory this way. And so what we see in this story is that we have Jesus on the scene doing something new. He's creating something new. And it's marked by abundance and joy. What Jesus is about is not what most people think God is about. No, what we see that Jesus is about is bringing abundance and joy, a sign that the life he offers is a life of abundance and joy. And he shows it by turning water into wine in abundance that brings, at a wedding, a party, great joy. And we'll see that his use of wine is nothing new, but it's something that the Bible has been using for ages to talk about the abundance and joy of God. Look at this from Joel chapter 3. Looking forward to the day when God would return, he says, in that day, the mountains will drip new wine. I love that. And the hills will flow with milk. That's a little gross. But the mountains will drip new wine. God is a God who comes to bring life and joy and abundance, and he comes to bring it to the full. Let me read this to you from Isaiah today, who on similar grounding says this, in that on this mountain the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meats and the finest of wines. On this mountain he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all people, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away their tears from their faces. He will remove the disgrace of his people from the earth. In that day they will say, surely this is our God. We trusted him and he saved us. This is Yahweh, and we trusted in him. So let's rejoice. Let's be glad in salvation. God is a God of life. God is a God of joy. And it is no coincidence that the first thing John wants us to see about Jesus and the revelation of his glory is that God has come in abundance of life and celebration to bring joy. He turns water into wine. But the day hasn't come yet. And the dawn hasn't arrived. So Jesus gives a taste, and he points to these jars, these pots, these ceremonial vessels, it is called. Did you catch that? Used for Jewish rites of ritual purification and cleansing, each holding 20 to 30 gallons apiece. You do the math, 180 gallons of wine. Fill it to the brim, because with Jesus there's no half full. Jesus comes to fill it to the brim. Now, these jars are normally used for religious preparation. They're predicated on the idea that we are not right with God, that there is something wrong in the relationship that each of us has with God. Something's messed up on our side of the equation. Maybe we're far from him. Maybe we don't really do the things he wants us to do. Maybe we don't really care much for him. Maybe we're angry at him. Truth be told, maybe we hate him. Maybe we got better things going on in life. And he's relegated in our priority list to somewhere around 23 or 24 on the list. It manifests itself differently, I think, for each and every person. But Jesus himself will say this, and the Bible will back it up, that some level, everything in our life is just a little bit off when it comes to a relationship with God. Well, the people of the Old Testament knew this. They knew it full well. And yet there were those who hungered for God, thirsted for God, maybe I should say. Those who sought God, wanted God, saw the importance of God, seeking to try to take what was wrong and make it right so that relationship wouldn't have something between it anymore. And so what they would do is they would ceremonially wash. Whenever they would come into the Lord's presence, they would wash. Whenever they would do something religious, they would wash. Whenever they would do things among God with each other, they would wash. Yes, like physically wash. I'm not making it a metaphor right now. They would take actual water, and they would symbolically dip their hands in it. They would symbolically use it on their feet. They would symbolically wipe their heads with it and wipe their chest with it in a way of saying, Lord, let what my hands have done, let where my feet have gone, let what my mind has thought, and let what my heart is inclined to be clean before you. It was a way of praying, cleanse me, O God. Cleanse me that I would be clean. These jars were a symbol that things weren't quite right, a reminder, if you will, that we aren't quite right with God yet, that we still live in a state of being, we still live in a time where to come into God's presence, we've got to be clean. What does Jesus do? He turns it to wine. He turns it to wine. Are you reading between the lines? This time of separation between you and God. This time of things tainting who you are, making the relationship not quite right. Oh, the hills and mountains will drip new wine. God's abundance and joy and favor is here. God is doing something new in your midst. Gone is the time of brokenness. Gone is the time of yearning. Christ is on the scene and he is doing something new. Can you see it? He is showing something new. That the one who has come to recreate you is here. What else can we learn about Jesus at a wedding? Well, I would say this. Just like wine, weddings are symbols in the Bible too. A symbol of the relationship that God wants to have with you. It's used all the time. You know, we call God Father, we call God Lord, we might call God King. You ever call him husband? It's weird, isn't it? Especially if you're a dude. But do you know it's how God wants you to think about him? A closeness, an intimacy, a oneness that maybe can only be pictured through a husband and a wife. Two people coming together to start something new in a life together. Check this out. From Revelation chapter 19. Look at how John will write about this in other places. He looks to the day when Jesus will return, because right now, it's a bit of a long-distance relationship, isn't it? But he sees that day and he cannot wait. And he calls it a wedding. The wedding feast of the Lamb. The Lamb's Jesus. For the wedding of the Lamb has come. And the bride, us, she's ready. Oh, John looked forward to that day, and Jesus shows up at a wedding. Make no mistake, he shows up at a wedding. It's laden with imagery. Saying, guess what? Your day of waiting. The day of waiting, it's here. Your time of waiting is done. God has returned. With the life and joy and abundance that he has offered. Do you see what John wants you to see? And it's no second-rate life. Look at what it says about the life. The wine, don't take my word for it. Read it for yourself. The best we have ever tasted. How does he put it? The maitre d' pulls the bridegroom aside. And he says, everyone brings out the choice first, and then when people don't know any better because they've had too much to drink, you push the cheap stuff on them. But with Jesus, the best comes now. We had a wedding here yesterday. Maybe when you were driving in, you saw the big tent off the driveway on the property. And if you didn't see it when you leave here today, maybe just turn your head more than 3 degrees when you drive and you won't miss it. They did the wedding on the grounds up here. It was fantastic. And they had their reception because it was our next door neighbor getting married over here. And it was a joy to be a part of, but it was fun coming in this morning because driving up the driveway this morning, of course, there's like half-drunk beer cups like all over the lawn and like resting on the sign. It's like someone was having fun at FOF last night. Pull the car over and I start picking it up because it's kind of weird if you're driving in the morning, there's like, half-drunk beer cups like littering the drive kind of coming in. Would you agree? Right? So I start like cleaning them up off the sign and stuff. And you kind of get a whiff and they're kind of like dripping on the outside. And you're sitting there getting like this swill. And that's the only way I could describe it, going, this is nasty stuff. They lived the John 2 wedding, all right? And I just imagined all these kinds of church people thinking, man, I should have left those out as a prop. And thinking of all these church people who would be driving in, getting all kind of ramrod straight as the pole goes up their rear end further and further, all upset because how dare someone violate the house of God? How dare someone use the W word or the B word, beer, at church? And then it struck me. You know what I think Jesus would have done? He'd have kept the party going. He would have said, you ain't seen nothing yet. This Pabst swill that you have half filled in your cups, and I would leave it half full too if it was that. Fill it to the brim because God is a God who brings celebration and joy and life. And by the way, $10 to anyone who roams the grounds today and finds someone still sleeping up in the woods, okay? Story number 2. The temple. Follow along with me. John 2, verse 12. After this, he went down to Capernaum with his mother and brothers and his disciples, and they stayed for a few days. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found men selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple area, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned the tables. To those who sold doves, he says, "Get out of here! How dare you turn my Father's house into a market?" And his disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." Then the Jews demanded of him, "What miraculous sign can you show us to prove your authority to do what you're doing?" Look at what Jesus says. "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." And the Jews replied, "It's taken 46 years to build this temple, and you're going to destroy it and raise it in 3 days?" But the temple he had spoken of was his body. And after he was raised from the dead, his disciples recalled what he had said. Then they believed the scripture and the words that Jesus had spoken. Now, while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many people saw the miraculous signs he was doing and believed in his name. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew people. He knew all men. He did not need man's testimony about man, for he knew what was in a man. It's Passover. It is the biggest festival of the year. If any of you have been a part of our Palm Sunday celebration here at Fellowship of Faith, what we try to emulate is just a taste of what that Passover celebration would be like. The temple was packed, people traveling from all over, Jerusalem busting at the seams, and Jesus shows up on the scene. And you heard the story. What does he do? He sees what's going on in the temple, and he gets mad. And he makes a whip out of cords, and he starts kicking over tables, and he starts driving people out. And he says, "How dare you do this? Turning this house into a marketplace." And the religious leaders kind of running this show are taking a look at Jesus going, "Who do you think you are coming in here doing something like this?" Let's unpack the significance of a temple. What do we see from Jesus in the temple? Number one, a temple is this. It's a place where a God lives. A temple is not a church. A temple is not a place that you primarily go to worship and praise and learn, though that certainly would occur at a temple, but those are secondary features. Fundamentally and primarily, a temple is a place where a God lives, or maybe better put, a representation, an idol, or an image of a God lives. You can see it in the pagan world, with pagan temples all over the place, and that is where the God is believed to live in some kind of fashion or form. And we see it in the Jerusalem temple. And even though the Jews were commanded, never have an image made in the image of the living God, their temple was empty, but the presence of God was there. It was empty of a physical form, but the presence of God was there. A temple is a place where God lives. Think about it this way. It's a God's summer home. The God lives in heaven, or God lives in heaven, but he likes to go to Florida in the winter. You know what I mean? And so what we have is this place where God, though transcendent above all things, living in heaven, nonetheless comes to dwell in this place among the people. Number two, a temple, and especially the Jerusalem temple, is a commercial center. To go into the temple that day and flip over the tables is like going into Times Square on New Year's Eve and closing it down. Number three, Jesus gets mad. I love it. I love that Jesus gets mad. I kind of want a God that gets mad on occasion. Not tirades, not out of control. You can read the story how you want, but you know what? There are things that tick God off. And sometimes God acts on it. And you know what made Jesus mad? Watching people put impediments, barriers, and obstacles to being with God. Taking the focus of people being with God and turning it into something else. Maybe even well-intentioned, maybe even giving a service, but doing things that keep people's ability from drawing to God. Oh, that ticks Jesus off. Like table kicking, whip making anger ticks Jesus off. Number four, we see this. Why can Jesus do it? Because it's his house. Did you catch that line in John chapter 2? The religious leaders come to him. Did you see this? Verse 18. Prove it. What authority do you have to do all this? I love Jesus' answer. It's my house, fool. And I can do what I want in my house. Would you agree? Number five, a temple is a copy. Let me share this line from Hebrews chapter 8 with you, where the writer literally writes, the temple is a copy and shadow of what is in heaven. The temple was always meant to be a model, if you will, to reflect the glory of God in heaven. But have you noticed it is very easy to attach yourself to the model and copy of something instead of the real thing? How many times do we live a projection about a person rather than the person themselves? How many times do we like the idea of a situation more than the actual situation itself? And how often do we cling to things that were meant to be guides to the greater thing rather than the thing itself? People loved the temple. They met God there. They grew in their faith there. They met their friends there and maybe their significant others. They gathered to drink coffee and have fellowship and looked forward to it every week. They came to love it so much that it became the center and the nucleus of who they were rather than what it represented. But make no mistake, the temple was not the end. it was a carbon copy of the real dwelling place of God in heaven. By the way, for those of you who are younger than like Gen X, a carbon copy is when you would take a piece of paper in the old days before like Xerox machines, as we used to call them then, were common, and you would like write on it and it would make like a copy and it would be really lame underneath. Maybe to translate it for you today is like, do you know when you copy an image and you try to paste it into a report, but the pixelization happens and you see it when you expand it? That's what I'm saying here. Does that make sense? All right. And number 6, Jesus is greater than the temple. Because if the temple is a copy of the dwelling place and presence of God, lo and behold, who do we have standing right here? According to John, God himself. And what we see happening is the very one that the temple is pointing to, standing and living in their midst. But the people were dense and they didn't get it. What authority do you have to do with this? Well, it's my house. Get the point? Show us a sign. Fine, destroy this temple, and I'll rebuild it in 3 days. They still couldn't figure out that he's talking about the real thing, not the carbon copy, because you know what? They were dense. John knows that we're dense too. And that's why he adds this little line for dense people like me and you. But the temple he had spoken of was his body. And after he was raised from the dead, his disciples came to believe. Now, go with me. What I'd like to do is talk about the connective tissue between story 1 at a wedding and story 2 at a temple, because on the surface, they don't really seem to have much to do with each other. Would you agree? But let me show you the connective tissue and the message John is seeking to bring. Now, I am going to take some other words of Jesus, not from this gospel, as a doorway in. Look at what Jesus says. Some people come up to him, and they said, John the Baptist's disciples, they often fast and pray. And so do the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours, they go on eating and drinking. And Jesus answered, can you make the friends of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them. In those days, they will fast. And then he told them a parable. Let me share it with you. No one tears a patch from a new garment and sews it on an old one. If he does, he will have torn the new garment, and the patch from the new will not match the old. And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the new wine will burst the skins, and the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, new wine must be poured into new wineskins. And no one, after drinking old wine, wants the new, for he says the old is better. Let me say that line again. New wine must be poured into new skins, but no one, after drinking the old wine, wants the new. He says the old is better. Jesus comes on the scene at a wedding, and he does something new. He makes something new. Jesus comes to the temple, which had existed for near 1,000 years in various forms, and he stands there in a new way among them. But no one, on seeing the new, prefers it. They say the old is better. Which brings us full circle. What old ways are you clinging to? What are you stubbornly refusing to let go in light of Jesus? How are you trading his living presence for copies, shadows, and forms? May I rephrase? What water are you continuing to drink instead of wine? What temple are you giving your allegiance to instead of the living presence of God? Are you true of what Jesus says? That on seeing the new that is offered, you claim the old is better. The challenge John is seeking to make to each and every one of you is that with Jesus, something new is here. Something new from your paradigms, your past, and your preferences. Jesus is doing something new, but the million-dollar question is simply this: how will you respond? Because the answer to that question makes all the difference in the world when we talk about the life Jesus offers and the definition of faith. So today we commune. We have wine, and I assure you it's cheap. We did not save the best until now. You cannot get too much, even if you take two. But we'll gather around this meal anyway, trusting that God comes to be among us through it, while simultaneously hoping, yearning, and waiting for the good stuff to come. Here at Fellowship of Faith, we also believe we are not right with God, each and every one of us, in some capacity or way. But that Jesus has made a way that all who call on his name can not only experience the newness of life with God, but the newness of a new relationship with him too. And so, like the Jews of old, while we wait for our bridegroom to come, we also engage in a practice called repentance, a way of simply acknowledging, God, I'm not right. I'm not right, but you make me right, and want to freely. Forgive me, Lord. Have mercy on me, Lord. Please restore the relationship today. So I'd like to invite you to rise. And I'd like to invite you into a time of prayer laced with yearning, hoping and longing, admitting, confessing, and receiving along with me. Look at these words that we're going to put on the screen. Most merciful God, we confess that we are by nature sinful and unclean. We have sinned against you in thought, word, and deed, by what we have done and by what we have left undone. We have not loved you with our whole hearts. We have not loved our neighbors as ourselves. We justly deserve your presence and eternal punishment. But for the sake of your Son, Jesus Christ, have mercy on us. Forgive us, renew us, and lead us, so that we may delight in your will and walk in your ways to the glory of your holy name. Now, can I ask, did you resonate with any part of that? Was it a line like unclean that really identified with you today? Did you come to that line, we have not loved you with our whole hearts, going, yeah, that's me? Did you see that line and maybe this struck you? No, I'm not loving other people, my neighbor, you know, the way that I should. Did you have a moment in there where you hungered for forgiveness, renewal, God's leadership? hungering for delight in Him. God hears the prayers of a sincere heart. And if that was your prayer today, hear this. Through His Son Jesus and what He has come and done, God's mercy is yours. Overwhelming, overshadowing, abounding mercy, spilling over the brim. God doesn't do anything halfway. Mercy, forgiveness, grace, they're yours. On the night He was betrayed, Jesus took bread, He broke it, He gave it to His disciples, and He said, "Take and eat. This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." He took a cup after supper, He gave thanks, He gave it to them. He said, "Drink of this, all of you. This is my blood of a new covenant, shed for you for the forgiveness of all of your sins." So come here. Come and do this in remembrance of me. Welcome to the foretaste of the wedding feast of God.
Mercy, mercy, bring me to my knees. As the morning calls to light the dark in me, heaven's story, breathing life into my bones. Spirit, lift me from this wasteland, lead me home. Now I find my life in yours, my eyes on your name. Arrest my heart from its reckless path, release the chains as the morning calls to light the dark in me. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies. Till all my fears are gone. No one no longer a slave to fear. And I am a child of God. No one no longer a slave to fear. For I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you've chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again to a family. Your love flows through my veins. No one no longer a slave to fear. 'Cause I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. 'Cause I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. 'Cause I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. 'Cause I am a child of God. You split the sea so I can walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I can stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I can walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I can stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God.
To him who loves us and has freed us by his blood and has made us to be a kingdom and priests to serve God his Father, to him be the glory now and forever. Amen. And may God spark something new May he fill you to the brim. May he convict you to trade your copies for the substance of what he gives. And may the blessing and life that flows from that, may it surround you this day and this week. Go in his name. Live in him.
All right, welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, guys.
Hey.
Great service. Long.
Yes.
feel like long
Oh,
service.
yeah.
Was it a long service?
Yeah.
11:16. All
right.
So I think that's actually pretty normal.
Yeah,
It
with
was just like a lot of
communion.
information, I think, maybe.
Yeah, that was.
It was good information.
Yes.
Yeah? What was your favorite?
I liked when he said Jesus doesn't half fill, he always fills it to the brim. Like,
Love that.
That was,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Jesus doesn't half save, he totally saves.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Riley? What was your favorite?
I liked when he talked about like the temple because I didn't realize Jesus flipped the table so early in like
Uh-huh.
John because like Boulder we always talk about like flipping tables.
Probably like your favorite part of
Oh yeah, definitely.
Riley.
But then when I always learned that he like physically tore down the temple and then rebuilt it in 3 days, then like I didn't actually learn that it was a metaphor for like Jesus.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
yes.
I didn't know that Jesus turning the water into wine was so close to Jesus flipping the temples. So you guys don't know this, but Brianna, did you see the meme that was it's a picture of Jesus turning over all the temple tables and everything? It's like that time that Jesus turned the wine into Jaeger. Like, oh, that's kind of funny. Oh, thank you. We've got gifts and everything. What is that? Huh. Anyway. Okay, so. Oh, thank you. I got some mascara. I'll be pretty next Sunday. Yay! Do you want to say hi? No. Run away, All right. Okay. Have you guys seen the movie Triple R? Have you seen Triple R?
No.
I love that movie.
Okay, so
it's so good.
With the whole video with the guy
with Matt Brown.
with Matt, and then the Jesus dance off. Riley and I were rolling on the ground. That was
'Cause that's-
hysterical.
Because that
I think
clip,
it kicked us off of Facebook too.
I think so.
It did, yeah.
Well, that clip is like, okay, I actually haven't seen
Nacho,
the full
nacho.
movie. That's like the one clip I have seen, and I've seen it like 10 times.
Yes.
And
yes.
so
If you're ever going to
I
a wedding,
lost it.
watch the movie Triple R because the dance battle scene is fantastic.
Phenomenal.
We actually went to a wedding as like our whole family. Dave and I get invited to a lot of weddings. We don't often get to invite our whole family. And so friends of ours got married and the whole family was there. And we did like the Nacho Triple R dance battle off. And afterwards we're like, wow, your family really knows how to dance. And we're like
Yeah,
that's right. That's
Yep.
right. Okay, today is the last day to register for Boulder Fall Retreat. Are you going?
I'm going.
Woo! You're going? Because
Yeah.
I know I registered you.
It'll
Are
be
you-
fun.
will.
It's really fun.
Leah, you're going, right? I think she was like the first to sign
Yeah,
up.
she's going.
Were you the first to sign up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I think Riley might have been the first to ask to be signed up, but I delay everything and you were
No,
not.
I think it was like Leah and Ellie and then the Promise Boys.
Okay, so Boulder Fall Retreat is for, is it
6th through 12th graders.
6th through 12th graders, and it's down in something like
Polo,
Polo,
Illinois. It's like literally in the middle
camp.
of nowhere, but it's awesome.
It's-
You've been before?
Yeah.
Good.
It's definitely a quieter retreat. We do lots of quiet time and just like being with God, like outdoor time. It's very beneficial.
Yeah.
I first went
Good.
on it in my 6th grade year, and I've gone every other
Every year
year
since.
since.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite times.
What? Excuse me. Wednesday is Bible study
midweek.
and dinner,
Midweek.
midweek Bible study. Do you come to it? Some of the time.
Sometime.
Okay.
I might
Riley
have a
hasn't been
parade.
able to
I
because
might go this Wednesday.
depends if we have a car.
You might see me, you might not.
So it's that kind of feel. Like if you guys can make it, fantastic.
Yes.
We're happy to see you. And dinner is provided. What else we have going on this week? Boulder PM tonight.
Dinner is provided with Boulder.
Estate planning 101. Good things. I mean, that's not necessarily for young kids, but Dave and I are doing it, and it's been really good conversations and how we're planning for our kids.
Yay.
Yay! What else have we got? I don't have a whole lot written down. Is there a temple?
21/6 the net.
Good job, Riley.
Welcome listeners from there.
Glad you're with us.
And then Questions You Never Thought You Could Ask in Church is our podcast.
On Wednesdays
on
from
Wednesdays.
12:30 for an hour, 12:30 to
It's-
1:30.
The title is self-explanatory. You ask questions.
Questions you never thought you could ask in church.
Yeah.
You can text into.
815-314-0363.
Yep, and they get a lot of questions every week. Though I gotta give a little complaint. The last couple weeks, they haven't been hitting a lot of questions. I feel like there's been way too long of answer for the question.
I mean, that should be a good thing, though, that they're going in depth with it.
Yeah.
I know Dad and Steve are kind of always button heads a little bit. Steve's like, we need quicker answers, and Dad's like, I can't do shorter answers.
Yeah.
And so, Steve, I'm on your side with this.
Dad, I'm on your side with this. But if you can't watch it live or like don't want to like go into like their website or whatever,
Yeah.
it is on Spotify, I believe.
I always forget about that.
I think it's
Spotify
uploaded
playlist, yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
like a week after they take it. So I'm like a week behind, I believe. But I
You
still
log
get-
on, you listen to them?
Sometimes, yeah.
Cool.
But I think they're uploaded on like either Thursdays or Tuesdays. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But they're on Spotify.
Very cool. What do we have? Dad kind of always at the end always asks me like, oh, so if he's going to make up, if you go to the U version, right, and you can make FOF your home church,
Yep.
Yes.
and then
Yes.
and then we've gotten permission to now upload Dad's, Dave's, pastors, like weekly faith training questions.
Oh, let's go.
And I don't know when that's going to start, but I'm told that it's going to start, so that'll be exciting.
That'll be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good. You guys have anything else? Any other comments?
Have a good week.
That's
Have a
so
good
nice.
week.
You guys, we'll see you. If you don't see you Wednesday or Thursday at the Will Training, we'll see you next week. Have a great one, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.